Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 16 of the Slow Smoke Pigskin podcast. It is draft weekend. The draft has finally come and gone. I was so excited. Oh, by the way, hi, I'm Aaron. That's Drew again.
Hey.
So I spent too many hours of my life over the past 3 days watching the draft. It is amazing how much quicker the picks go on Saturday than they do on Thursday and Friday. It was like, why couldn't we have been doing this the whole time?
Well, they do give them more time. I believe they give them more time on the first day, round one, and then they have to introduce everybody, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, man, but it's just like, I liked how it was going today. It was just pick after pick. Like, they still has some amount of time clock, but it was just like, pick got done.
Yeah. Yes. The teams knew what they were doing at the end of towards the end of the draft, for sure.
So before we get into the draft, let's talk about NFL news that happened before the draft. So first piece of news, the Broncos have a quarterback with the last name Wilson again, but now it's Zach.
Are they going to keep the same number so they don't have to get rid of all the jerseys?
I heard, he used to be number 2. Russ was number 3. If they can convince him, then, there's a valid use for the inventory.
Uh-huh.
A couple of people got paid.
Yes.
First, Amon-Ra St. Brown got extended by the Lions 4 years, $120 million with 77 guaranteed, which was at the time making him the highest paid per year wide receiver. However, a couple days later, or was it later that day, or I think it was within 24 hours, the Philadelphia Eagles extended A.J. Brown, gave him an additional 3 years, $96 million with 84 guaranteed. Yeah. Oh, wow. That means in the past week or so, they gave a combined $170 million to A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. And they paid Saquon. Like, they've done something right with this. Well, and they paid. They re-signed Jalen. How the hell do they have all this money? Like, I don't even know how they're affording to play all these people.
So they figured something out. I mean, yeah, and all three of those wide receivers are well worth the money, by the way. So,
yeah,
I don't know.
The same day that the Lions extended Amon-Ra St. Brown, they also gave Penei Sewell the highest offensive line contract in the league as well. So 4 years, $112 million, 85 guaranteed. I remember the year he got drafted, and there was like debate: are the Bengals going to take Jamar Chase, or are they going to take Penei Sewell? And they ended up going with Jamar Chase, who has worked out, but looks like if they got Penei Sewell, it would have worked out as well, and maybe Joe Burrow wouldn't be hurt as much as he is. The Steelers declined the 5th-year option on Justin Fields. Can't say it's a huge surprise to me because it would have paid him $25 million for the 2025 season. I don't think they were ready to pay him that much yet.
They can just franchise tag him next year, right?
If they did. Like, I've had debates with folks on what we think is going to happen. I think I mentioned it when we recorded before. I still think Russ is going to start the season and Justin Fields will come in after the bye.
For sure.
We'll see. Rashad Bateman signed an extension through 2026 with the Ravens. They've been weak at wide receiver. He's had a lot of hype on him his whole career and hasn't showed up. We'll see if he finally does. So, all right, that's all I got in the news. Anything else you know of?
No, not newsworthy.
Yeah, and we really want to get into talking.
I can care less about the news right now, anyways. I'm not paying attention to it. The big news is coming up.
Yeah. So the draft happened Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. It went interestingly. The first.
I was gonna say it started off the way we expected.
Yeah, first four picks were pretty much exactly as expected. Six quarterbacks in the first 12
Crazy.
was not expected, but that is a whole lot of quarterbacks early.
Yeah.
And I'm jumping ahead, but I'm going to anyways.
Right.
It's funny because then the next quarterback wasn't taken until the middle of the fifth. So apparently the NFL team saw a gigantic talent gap and went, okay, we need these six guys on teams, and they all suck after that. So
Pretty much.
uh, also so that was a record for the most quarterbacks that early, and then another record was the first 14 picks of the entire draft were all offensive players. If I remember correctly, the final was 23 total. I forgot to write it down. uh
Sounds about right.
23 of the 32 picks in the first
Yeah.
round were all on offense, so shows what the league is caring about at this point, I guess. So yeah, I just need to get this out of the way real quick. What the hell did the Cowboys do in this draft? We don't have a running back. I mean, it's got to be a given that we're signing Zeke at this point, because if not, we're rolling out Royce Freeman and Rico Dowdle. Like,
If there's not a deal already in place between the two, does this give Zeke an upper hand to be like, hey,
yeah,
I want more money now because you have no chance of getting any other running back except for me?
I don't know. They I don't think they took an offensive. If I remember correctly, they didn't take an offensive player other than a lineman.
Not a skill player, right?
Yeah, no skill players. We've got CeeDee Lamb, who's entering his fifth year option, I believe, and pissed off. And then our next wide receiver is Brandon Cooks, and then nobody. We got Jake Ferguson,
Yeah,
so at least
you
there's
got
just.
Tolbert.
Oh yeah, great. Yeah,
I got
great.
high
Love it.
hopes on Tolbert this
Yeah.
year.
So we don't have receiving weapons. We haven't signed CD to an extension. We haven't signed Dak to an extension. We don't have any running backs. Like what is the plan on offense? Like
He's all in.
CD
He's
Lamb's get
all in.
CD Lamb might break the NFL record for targets in the season this year with the way
Targets.
this offense is.
100%.
Yeah, 250, maybe 300. We'll see. I don't know.
All right, so listen, in hindsight, like chances are you're not the defense is going to be great and they're not going to put up very many points against you. So you have and your offensive line should be better since they drafted like 50 of them. But
We
you can,
lost.
I mean, if the offensive line is good, you can hand me the ball and I could get 5 yards every other carry.
Number one, no. They lost a couple of linemen in the process and had to
This is
replace
true.
them. It's not like we were just drafting offensive line because we were replacing like perennial Pro Bowlers that left
with rookies.
Yeah, with rookies who were like, hopefully. And I forgot my other point.
It's okay, man.
Why am I a Cowboys fan sometimes?
You could just not have a team. That'd be great. And then you could just focus solely on fantasy.
Okay. So, Drew, who got picked at 101?
101, my boy, Caleb Williams. That was a joke.
Was there a sudden change of heart last week?
No.
You hated him.
Yes, he had a nice interview afterwards, and he makes everybody think that you made this comment when we were talking back and forth during the draft, but I think he's a ticking time bomb waiting to happen. But anyways, he's number one.
Yep.
And he's
as expected.
Everybody thinks he's going to be God's gift to the Bears. With the weapons that they have now, it's a good possibility he's going to be actually pretty impressive. So we'll see.
Yeah. So I mean, not a whole lot. We don't need to talk about him more. This has all been expected for a long time.
Right.
Number two,
Jaden Daniels.
So I mean, you figured it was either going to be Jaden Daniels or Drake May. It ended up being Jaden. He's going to. I mean, the reality is Washington's got a couple of good receivers. So.
And a running back, like they have a team.
Oh, and I mean, I forgot that they signed Austin Eckler, so he's got a receiving back. They got Brian Robinson to run the ball. Like, it's not a horrible situation.
Defensive-minded head coach.
Yep.
Like, I
So
think that I mean, it's a good team to watch out for. It's a good team if you're looking for players for your fantasy team. Like, that's a good place to start. They've been pretty bad the last few years.
all right, next.
Drake May, Patriots.
So this
The
is
next
another one that
Tom
was
Brady.
expected. This is another one that was basically expected. The big question is that Drake May has been seen as somewhat of a raw prospect who's a little bit of a project. So how early do they get him in? Because Jacoby Brissett's there to start.
That's true. That's true.
Do you let Jacoby be a bridge to let Drake learn for a little bit or not? In Dynasty, if you're a super flex, he's still a top 4 or 5 pick. If you're non-super flex, still probably potentially a first round pick, depending on how you believe. But yeah, like I said, this is another pick that wasn't a surprise. It's not exciting. I want to talk about the ones that we didn't expect.
For sure. Marvin Harrison Jr. to the Cardinals.
I mean, this was a great landing spot for him. Kyler Murray is going to have another weapon. If you remember, was it 2 years ago? 2 years ago? I think it was 2 years ago
with
where DeAndre Hopkins,
yeah.
where he hyper targeted him and D-Hop looked great. If Marv becomes that for Kyler, a whole lot of potential there. And I think Kyler is one of the more underrated fantasy quarterbacks right now because people forgot how good he was because
he was hurt last year.
Injury. Right, because he's had injury, and then when he came back last year, he had no receivers because like Hollywood Brown was hurt and Michael Wilson's a rookie. So it could be a very good situation. All right. At 5 and 6, the Chargers and Titans took offensive linemen because they needed to. And that's probably the last time we're going to talk about anything other than a skilled player in this draft. We got so many draft picks. We want to focus on offensive players who are going to have some fantasy relevance for us.
Yes, that's what we're going for. So next off the board was Malik Neighbors going to the Giants.
Yeah. I saw a video of him like showed up at the Giants facilities. And I don't know if I can't remember if it was the GM or who it was like introducing, like welcoming him. And maybe he had just been on a plane and hadn't got a lot of sleep or whatnot, but he did not seem excited to be there. I think it was the right pick for the Giants.
For sure.
Instead of going, there was talk that they were going to take JJ McCarthy and whatnot. And it's like, it's not fair to Daniel Jones what they've done to him to an extent because he's had no weapons whatsoever. I think with a couple of weapons, Daniel Jones is a serviceable enough quarterback. But we'll see. And if not,
I think he's Lock. I don't know. I think he's past that point, but I think. What else are you going to do? Like if you can't pick JJ McCarthy because he's got no one to pass to. So at least now, whoever quarterback is there has someone to pass to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Next pick is the shock of the draft.
This literally was at least the shock of the first round.
Yeah.
Left-handed black quarterback to Atlanta.
Yeah, everybody hide
your dogs.
Hide your dogs. Yeah.
Michael Penix Jr. to Atlanta.
Yeah, and apparently they didn't give Kirk any warning about this, so he's less than thrilled. He went there because he saw a long-term future, and could retire there.
Which he will, but he's kidding himself to think that he will be there. That he will be their starting quarterback for the next 4 years. Like, he doesn't have it in him.
Well, we'll see. But the thing, even
if they didn't have Michael Penix, like he's not.
Yeah, but
it's not going to happen.
So part of the reason this is so shocking, I mean, obviously because they just paid Kirk all this money, but on top of that, Penix is, I believe, almost 24 already. I know he's at least 23.
He's 24.
Okay, I think he's 24 in 2 weeks.
Oh,
anyways, whatever.
Seriously?
Yeah,
seriously.
Yes. Anyway, so the point is that like he is an older quarterback. So when you
Mm-hmm.
take an older rookie and have him sit, like I heard somebody
In all
comparing it.
fairness, though,
Hold on. I heard somebody comparing it to like Jordan Love, who sat for 4 years before he played. But Jordan Love came into the league at 21 and is now 25 after waiting. If Penix sits around for 3 or 4 years, now you're talking about 27, 28 before he ever gets a shot.
yeah, correct. And I don't see him sitting around that long. In any other circumstance other than the fact that they gave him what $180 million for 4
So,
years? How long
yes.
was it?
So,
So my other
but
point that I was going to make was you're going to see a trend in the next in this, especially this year's and maybe next year's, of older players because of COVID.
yeah,
They
no,
all got
that's
that
a
extra.
that's completely
So,
why. Well, actually, this is
but that doesn't mean that they
probably
have that. That doesn't mean they have that many years experience just because they've been in college for 5 years. And that year doesn't really count because their bodies are still relatively fresh. They're young and they didn't have 5 years of going at it.
this should actually be the end of that because that was,
Is
we're
it?
now four
Yeah.
years past. But
Okay.
like, I get your point on that. The other thing I heard about Kirk Cousins' contract, so it's 4 years, 180 million total,
100
100
guaranteed.
guaranteed. And if I remember correctly, 40 of that or 45 or something like that, excuse me, is for this year. The I think with the way the contract is structured, if they wanted to drop him next year and they did it as a post June 1st designation so that it split the cap hit or
Right.
the dead cap over 2 years, it'd be $65 million or so over 2 years, which is still a lot of money. But I mean, the
But
Broncos just did 80
right.
for to get rid of Russell Wilson over a couple of years. So
Right.
if it's possible, I think it's unlikely, but it's possible. I think that Kirk's going to get at least his 2 years, and
He'll get this year. Granted, barring injury, obviously. He'll get this year and he'll get the start next year.
well,
Midway through next year, the bye week,
but
how the team and the team has to win. If they're not
uh,
going to win with what the talent that they have, then he's not going to play.
that's true. But the other thing that nobody's talked we haven't mentioned yet is I don't know how many people had this high of a grade
Right.
on Penix either. Like, so the fact that he got taken so early by a team that didn't need a quarterback just made it completely shocking. I've heard
100%
multiple
still shocking.
I've heard
Correct.
multiple people already say this is the worst draft
If
pick they've
this was
ever
a
seen.
third round, we wouldn't be it wouldn't be that big. We'd be like, oh yeah, that
Even
makes
the
total sense.
second,
Like,
even the
but
second.
you're spent right.
and I've also heard that this is the biggest tragedy in Atlanta, even worse than 28-3. Uh,
What's 28-3?
when they were beating the Patriots in the Super
Oh
Bowl
yeah, yeah, yeah,
28
yeah,
to
yeah,
3 and they lost.
yeah. It's like, wait, yes. Although I will say that Penix is better than Bo Nix, and he's better than JJ McCarthy.
I'm fine with that. Yeah. All
So
right. So that's enough time on that one.
okay. So next
109.
up, 109. Romeo Odunze.
You just turned him into Romeo. It's Rome.
Oh,
Rome
my bad.
Odunze.
I like Romeo better.
Yeah, well. So yeah,
But if you put his names together, it's Romeo Dunze.
okay, that's fine. Um,
But yes,
anyways, so
The
he
Bears had a good first round.
the Bears did have a good first round, and I think long term this is fantastic for Caleb. For this year, I think it's actually do we see JSN all over again, right? Last year, Jackson Smith and Jigba went to Seattle, didn't see a whole lot of playing time because DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett were already there. So the Bears already have Keenan Allen and DJ Moore. Now, that being said, Keenan Allen's on the last year of his contract. I've actually heard a lot of people comp Roma Dunze to Keenan Allen. So you let Roma Dunze learn from Keenan Allen for a year. It's fantastic
Right.
for next year. it's just the big question is how relevant are any of their wide receivers going to be this year?
But you're talking like Keenan Allen's going to play the whole year. He's not going to play the whole. He's going to if he does if he's the number one or number two, he's going to get hurt. It's going to be wear and tear throughout the year. So they can kind of keep him healthy for most of the year by
We'll see.
using Odunze.
I'm just saying
he's NFL ready. Like, why are you going to keep him on the bench?
I'm just saying for a 9th pick, there are some factors that make you less comfortable for his output this year than
as a
rookie,
as a fantasy draft.
Yeah, sorry, for fantasy, right? Like career wise, I still think he looks fantastic.
Yeah.
If you're in a dynasty league, which is what we primarily talk about, I'm still very confident. If you're talking redraft for this year, I have some concern.
Correct. As a redraft, he's going to go third round, I would say. Late second. He's not.
Rome?
Yeah.
No, he's going like 10th, 11th.
Pick?
Round.
Oh, no.
Yes.
All right. Anyways,
okay.
We are going to move on to JJ McCarthy.
Yeah, so
the Vikings traded up one spot to get him, which
I didn't get it. Like, unless they were like, I don't think there was any chance the Jets were going to take JJ McCarthy there. So unless they were worried that somebody else was going to trade up to the Jets,
trade in place of
like they needed to get JJ McCarthy, especially after they saw Penix go. Like, I think that's what happened was they saw that the top 3 that were expected to go went, and then Penix went, oh crap. JJ McCarthy's the last one we're good with.
Yeah.
We need him because we're not gonna roll with Sam Darnold. So
I mean, I don't yeah. I don't think Justin Jefferson is happy with either one, but we'll see.
Well, it's kind of, by the way, just to point out, Atlanta managed to screw the Vikings in the quarterback situation twice. First, they took Kirk, and then them picking Penix just made it worse for the Vikings. So it's kind of funny that they managed to cause them problems twice. So, yeah.
All right. So next up with the 12th pick, the Broncos took Bo Nix.
You know, Bo Nix had been projected going to the Broncos. This felt really early for his level of talent. But I think the last time we recorded, I thought you pointed out he's got a lot of college experience, so he's got a lot of game time. NFL is different, but if Sean Payton is seeing a bigger version of Drew Brees, then perhaps, it felt early, but
I don't disagree that it was. That as far as like him as a player and his talent wise, as the 12th pick sounds early, 100%. But with Sean Payton, everybody, when I was listening to the commentators talk about it, and they're like, it's the exact same thing that Sean Payton did with Drew Brees. Drew Brees did not have the arm strength, did not have it, but he gained it over time.
The other thing is that the Broncos didn't have a second round pick. Right. So they had to do it.
It was Bo Nix or Spencer Rattler.
Yeah, they weren't taking Spencer Rattler in the first. Yeah. All right, next.
So this one, as we're talking about it, I'm like, oh, maybe this is what the Raiders did. They hit the panic button. So I think maybe they were going to trade up to get JJ McCarthy or to get a quarterback, and instead they chose. Is what?
I'm sorry. I heard the Raiders, Seahawks, and somebody else were all trying to move up, but all supposedly looking for Penix.
So I think they hit the panic button and picked Brock Bowers.
I think what they did was, oh crap, we wanted a quarterback. We can't get a quarterback. Let's take the best player available.
Right.
Like, don't get me wrong. Like, Brock Bowers is a fantastic prospect. he is a very different player than Michael Mayer, who they took early last year. Michael Mayer is more your traditional end of line tight end, whereas Brock Bowers is going to act more like a slot receiver. And they let go of what the heck's the accountant's name? Hunter Renfro. He looks like an accountant. If you've never seen a picture of Hunter Renfro, go look it up. Like, he does not look like an NFL player. But so it was a weird pick, but like I said, I think they wanted a quarterback. There was no quarterback, so they took the best player.
But which is, I mean, if you were going offensive like talent player, like that's not a bad pick. But as far as like a fantasy goes, like
for fantasy,
he's going to be productive. He's going to get the targets, but is he going to be? Is he going to be a number 1 round pick in your fantasy league? Like, is that what you want, or in the dynasty league? Like, are you going to put your money on Bowers?
Long term, probably
first round. The draft coming up in 3.5, 4 weeks. Is he your first round? I think he's late first round, but
I think he might have moved down in the round, but I still think he's still a first round pick. Gardner Minshew, they paid Gardner decent money. I mean, I think if I remember correctly, Gardner got like 14 a year or something. Gardner is a serviceable quarterback. I mean, the Colts were still successful on offense while he was there. He's going to make mistakes. The team's not going to be a championship, but they should be watchable. So yeah, it definitely not where I expected Bowers to go, and definitely
not as a fantasy manager, not where you want Bowers to end up. I'll tell you that much. But all right. With 23rd pick, Brian Thomas Jr. to the Jags.
Yeah, the Jags had the 17th pick, and everyone thought that they were going to take Brian Thomas Jr. there. They traded back from 17 to 23 and still managed to get Brian Thomas Jr. So that was a good move for them. Mm-hmm. They lost Calvin Ridley, so they needed another weapon. I think this is a good, smart pick for them.
I agree. Bills. Oh, the Bills traded back with the Chiefs, who take Xavier Worthy at 1.28.
Yeah,
I'm not sure why the Bills did this, but
the Bills. Why would you help the Chiefs? Like,
I mean, you're helping your old man out. You know what I mean? Like their dad, they're helping him out. Like,
pretty much.
Who's your dad?
They said, "Daddy." Yeah, I got you.
Yes, Daddy. Here you go. Whatever you need.
Yeah, it was funny because in the first 2 rounds, if I remember correctly, the Chiefs traded up in the first and the second, and one was to the Bills and one was with the 49ers, who are both the teams that they took out in the playoffs last year. It's like, why would you help the Chiefs?
Right. But here's a question.
Where's my question?
Hold on.
I just got dead air.
I'm reading notes. Sorry. So is Keon Coleman, compare him with Xavier Worthy?
They're very different players.
100%.
Xavier Worthy is a super small, speedy guy. Keon Coleman, who they ended up... the Bills traded back to the Chiefs about 32. Then they traded back again to go from 32 to 33 and took Keon Coleman. Now, Keon Coleman, much bigger guy, has the potential to be a number 1. He wasn't as productive. There's a lot of questions around him. So they still got a wide receiver along the top of the prospects and got some draft capital back in the process. Xavier Worthy is a scary fit for the Chiefs. He is very small, which we've talked about, but that speed is obviously crazy, and
they know what to do with it, though.
They do or do not.
They do.
Like, if he can do Tyreek stuff, oh boy, everybody watch out.
Right. And yes, you're going to compare him to Tyreek Hill purely
But
based off of size, purely based off of size and speed. But obviously, Tyreek Hill is Tyreek Hill. Like you're comparing, like
well, the bigger problem is he Sky Moore? Is Xavier Worthy
right.
just Sky Moore again? Like or
That's
is he
true.
Mecole Hardman again? Right? They keep trying these small, fast guys, hoping that one of them's Tyreek, and
True.
nobody's Tyreek but Tyreek.
Right.
So that being said, Xavier Worthy was a good wide receiver at Texas. It's a great pick, and Xavier Worthy is now a very, very interesting dynasty pick as well. I mean, he already was, but that
I
is
mean,
a
we
great landing
we
spot for him.
we both had Xavier Worthy in the first round of our dynasty draft as and
We
our
did.
mock.
It's just a question of did it move him up? Like,
Right.
could you almost if Brock Bowers moved down, like before, if you asked me before the NFL draft, there's no way I would have taken
Correct.
Xavier Worthy before Brock Bowers. Now it's like,
I might take Coleman before Brock Bowers just because of who's throwing to him.
that's
Like that's a
possible.
huge part of it.
Yeah. All right.
Correct. All right.
131.
So we jumped around a little bit, but
No, we didn't. Oh, we did a little. Yeah,
I did a little
131.
bit. 131. Little surprise on this one. Ricky Pearsall to the 49ers.
Yeah, Ricky Pearsall. I thought that he would go early round 2, and instead going late round 1, like we talked about last week. Going at the end of a round means you're generally going to a better team than if you go early in a round. So, there was rumors that both Debo and Brandon Ayuk are on the trade block for the 49ers, so they needed to get some wide receivers. This is a real nice landing spot for Ricky Pearsall because even if Debo and Ayuk stay this year, how long are they both there? And Ricky Pearsall is a good prospect. If Brock Purdy continues the way Brock Purdy's been going, in the Shanahan offense, this will have moved Ricky Pearsall up a bunch in where you could draft him.
Yes, I would agree with you 100%. I think I texted you about this earlier. Like he's only dropped 5 passes in college.
Yeah,
So
he's got
that's
some sure
crazy.
hands.
He's hands. He might not be the fastest. He probably runs really good routes and can catch the ball. But what does this do for fantasy owners of Debo and Ayuk? If he does end up playing, like, is it going to take time away? Is it going to take points away? The share, it's already hard enough with CMC, Debo, and Ayuk all playing, and Kittle. Like, it's hard. You start them, but you just hope that they get the ball that day.
We've had a shift over the past couple of years where people have started expecting wide receivers to produce in year 1 because it's happened over the past few years. Whereas 5 years ago, you didn't really expect much out of a wide receiver in year 1. It was usually year 2 that you get breakouts, and then we got the Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, showing up in year 1 and being very productive players. So I think Debo and Ayuk are going to be the guys for this year, but in the future, unless one gets traded, and that's how Ricky Pearsall becomes fantasy relevant this year. I think Pearsall's probably one who you're probably going to have to wait a year to get real fantasy production out of. That's my guess.
I imagine he's going to sit on somebody's taxi squad for the year. He'll have a couple of
Possibly.
games where someone will get hurt. Debo's been hurt.
Yep.
His longevity he's not playing full seasons anymore.
Yep.
But I think he'll sit on someone's taxi squad, but it's still going to be he's still going to be a good pickup for somebody.
Last pick of the first round. Well, we talked about the fact that the Bills traded back again, but we didn't talk about who the Panthers took.
Panthers picked Xavier Leggett.
It's funny because I thought it was Leggett, but then at the draft they pronounced it Leggett, and I don't know if that was that what the hell's the commissioner's name? Goodell didn't know how to say it, or we had all been saying it wrong.
Did Jamar Chase introduce him, or Did you see Jamar Chase?
Mm-mm.
No, Jamar Chase? Not Jamar Chase. Jamal Charles. Did you see him introduced?
Oh man, that was messed up. Yeah.
Did
That's a cheat. Well, first of all, that's Chiefs, and second of all,
You're
that's just
right,
mean.
but
No. Anyways,
funny.
Xavier Leggett, whatever, is the guy that we were joking about last week because when you see him in an interview, he does not sound like
Yes.
it. That being
He's
said, he's like
it's a good spot for him. He's in Carolina. That's great.
he's a big guy, like I think 6'3", 220, ran like a 4.4, super fast, super talented. Like he's the one who was the enigma in college because he had 4 years of doing nothing and then a gigantic year. He looks big, he looks strong. I Good for him. He got to move up to be a first round pick, and he thought that when he was a first round pick that he wouldn't have to go to the Panthers. But I, I don't know. Like they in this draft, the Panthers got Bryce Young a couple of weapons. There's gonna be Bryce isn't gonna have an excuse. Either he's gonna show up and be the number one pick that he was supposed to, or he's gone because
Does
they've equipped
the
him.
confidence has to be there now though? Like I feel like that was maybe something. He's got talent. He's not an untalented quarterback.
Yeah.
He's got talent, and now he has weapons. So you're absolutely correct. He has no more excuses. But I think you'll see his production go up. You have to, right?
You sure heck hope so.
Right.
So,
All right, and that concludes the first round of the 2004 NFL
2004?
2024. You know what I meant.
Yeah, buddy.
All right.
So that was the first round. Interesting thing to mention is that by my count, there was 14 players that went in the first round that are useful in fantasy, which means there will be first round NFL draft players that don't even go in the first round of the dynasty draft. And throw in some running backs, which we haven't even talked about yet, who got drafted later. It's gonna be fun. I'm so excited now. Now that I was waiting for the real NFL draft, now I'm ready for our draft. Let's go.
Yes. It's like this was Thanksgiving and it was really exciting, but Christmas is just around the corner. I can't wait.
Oh, that is a very good analogy. I like it. Nicely done, Drew. All
Oh,
right,
thank
so let's get into round two.
All right. First pick of round 2 to the Bills went Keon Coleman.
So Bills needed a receiver. They got one. He was one I felt like had some more question marks to his game than some of the people who were still available at that point. But he's he's landing with a great quarterback. If he can produce, he's gonna have lots of opportunity.
Yeah, I agree with that one. Second pick to the Chargers went Lad McConkey.
Yeah, I mean, I really like Lad McConkey in the pre-draft process.
Mm-hmm.
The Chargers obviously needed a weapon after they lost Mike Williams and Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler. We know Harbaugh is going to want to run the ball a lot, but they still got to throw sometimes.
Yeah.
So this could potentially, slot Lad McConkey in as the number one receiver for the Chargers legitimately. I mean, they got Quentin Johnston as a first-round pick last year who disappointed, but we'll see.
Do you blame the Chargers for not taking one of the better receivers earlier instead of an offensive lineman to protect?
I mean, the Chargers want to run the ball, so I think that's more important. And I think Harbaugh's recent quote was people asked him why they didn't take weapons in the draft, but they see offensive linemen as weapons, is what Harbaugh said.
This isn't college anymore.
Well, anyways.
This is the NFL. All right. Jalen Polk, the fifth pick with Jalen Polk to the Patriots.
So Jalen Polk coming out of Washington was opposite Rome Odunze. So the Patriots obviously need wide receivers as well. They've signed KJ Osborne, and Kendrick Bourne was their best receiver coming off an ACL. So They needed weapons for Drake May. This could be real good. Yeah, I mean, he should have opportunity, and if Drake May can play, or if Jacoby Brissett is a perfectly serviceable starting quarterback in the NFL, so there's opportunity.
Same with Coleman. I felt as though that there was probably better receivers, but obviously that's why I'm not the GM of an NFL team.
Yeah.
But anyways.
Yeah.
All right. So to the 14th pick, this brings us to our first and running back off the board, Jonathan Brooks to the Panthers.
Yeah. I didn't expect the Panthers to be a landing spot for a running back. Number one. Well, not number one. Like, I didn't expect them to be a landing spot. And Jonathan Brooks, there was question whether him or Trey Benson would be the first one off the board. I guess they're not too scared about the ACL injury to Brooks. Once again, Bryce Young's got weapons. He's got no excuse. So it'll be interesting to see if the Panthers manage to have a functional offense this year.
Yeah, I mean, we both had Jonathan Brooks as the first running back off the board in our mock, so I think that he's
yeah, but I did that assuming that he was going.
No, you did not have Jonathan Brooks. I lied.
Actually, I had Trey Benson.
You did,
assuming that he was going to the Cowboys because for some reason I thought the Cowboys would take a running back.
You were way off on the Cowboys and a running back.
So far off. Yes. Okay, next.
I'm gonna mess up this name. I can't figure it out.
Just call him
Adonai A.
Yes, it's
Mitchell.
Yeah, just call him AD. That's what a lot of people call him. But actually, you said Adonai, right? Yeah, I was shocked that he fell this far. A lot of mocks had him going in like the 20s of the first round, not 20th pick of the second round.
Right.
That being said, he came out and said that he was not happy with how the draft went. But this is also the guy who's gotten accused of taking plays off and all these things. So I don't know, like him coming out with those quotes just didn't make me feel great about him as, a locker room guy. We'll see how he shows up. That being said, he landed with the Colts. The Colts needed another weapon outside of Michael Pittman. If Anthony Richardson can stay healthy and be a good quarterback, then...
Don't they have Williams? Williams? Is that his last name?
You're thinking of Jamison Williams? He's on the Lions.
Oh, I don't know. I thought the Colts had a P2 or a P2. Sorry, softball.
They got Josh Downs last year, who had like a minute of being decent last year, and they had Alec Pierce, who's just been a deep threat.
Okay.
So.
My bad. All right. So moving on to the next pick to the Commanders went tight end Ben Sinnott.
Yeah.
Sinnott.
So it's really funny because like another podcast I listened to, they had been referring to him as the Senator, and he went to Washington. So yeah, they were very excited about that. That being said, so they got Jaden Daniels in Washington. They signed Zach Ertz in free agency. Zach Ertz is old. He's not going to be around long. Ben Sinnott was assumed to be the number 2 tight end in this draft. This could actually be a pretty interesting player in a pretty interesting situation. I think it's a second round dynasty pick, most likely second, potentially later. But I actually think it's a nice landing spot for him with some real potential there. Most tight ends don't show up in year one. I know Sam Laporta was a tight end one last year and broke all the molds, but traditionally they're not. So, but
when you've got Zach Ertz in front of you, like Zach Ertz doesn't have to play every play, therefore his longevity can be throughout the season. It's a great learning, teaching slash learning aspect to him. Yeah, I think it's a really good spot. And is he going to be productive this year? A little bit, but moving, I think it's more of a long term, a 2 or 3 year.
Until he actually shows up
Yes.
useful. Yeah, so I mean that's pretty much it for fantasy relevant in round two. Like there was a ton in round one, and round two, a lot more defensive players went,
Yeah.
and only one running back came off the board. People thought maybe two
Uh-huh.
would, and um, so yeah, round two was
It's pretty interesting that the only running back that went in round two, the only first one, was the one that got injured. So, like, obviously, they saw something in the injured running back versus the non-injured running back. So, the running back class on this draft is definitely depleted.
yeah. I mean, like I said, it was expected that only one or two would
Yeah,
likely go in
of
round two,
course.
and then there was a few in round three and a whole lot in round four.
Right.
So, all right. So we talked about it. The next couple of rounds, we're not going to talk about everybody. There's too many dang players drafted, and
Yeah. I don't pay enough
legitimately,
attention to these rounds to know anything that's going on, anyways.
I was going to say I pay a pretty good amount of attention, but by we're getting to some of the picks in late fourth, fifth, sixth, I'm like I've heard nothing about this player.
Yeah.
Maybe he's the next Puka Nakua. Maybe he's Dan Bradley. And I don't even know if that's the name of a player that was ever drafted, but most
Bob
people would be able
Smith.
to check me on it. Like the point is there's plenty of players drafted at this point that you never hear from again.
Yeah. And I mean, this is hopefully the managers in our league listen to it just to make it a little more informative for the draft coming up. Like that's the whole point of this. So, all right. Round three, 3.1, Malachi Corley to the Jets.
Yeah, I know he's a guy who'd gotten hyped up in the pre-draft process, but I know there was question marks with him. So the Jets signed Mike Williams because people have been saying they needed somebody else to go along with Garrett Wilson. Mike Williams is always hurt and he's older. So there will be some potential there for Malachi Corley, and it also depends if Aaron Rodgers is a useful at all or if he's just old and
It's
torn
but
Achilles guy.
any offensive player on the Jets is going to benefit from Aaron Rodgers in one way or the other.
Yeah.
So, is it a late third or fourth round that you're going to be like, if I have to choose between somebody, like, yeah, a Jets player is probably not a bad pickup just because he's going to learn how to do things correctly from one
I
of the better
think
quarterbacks ever to play the game.
in Dynasty, I think he'll probably go earlier than that. I could see him late second, early third, getting a shot.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you never know. Especially with if some managers are doing auto draft and it goes to ADP and it happens, that's
Yeah.
what messes up the draft. Like, but it is what it is. All right, second pick, Trey Benson to the Cardinals.
Yeah, he was supposed to be on the Cowboys. He was supposed to be on the Cowboys.
Every running back was supposed to be on the
No,
Cowboys.
well, so when I started, so let me tell you a little story.
Yes.
Going into the draft, I was like, oh, cool. Second round Cowboys are probably taking either Jonathan Brooks or Trey Benson. Cool. And then as I was watching the draft, Janelle watched me like we got to the third round, and I was like, they didn't take him. Oh no, he went to somewhere else. Oh no, I guess they're gonna have to take this. Oh no, he went he went to the. Oh no, somebody else took. Wait, what? And then we got to the fourth round, and I was like, are the Cowboys taking anybody? Because I keep seeing all these running backs, and then sorry. Anyways, back to
this is a question for
Trey
Neil.
Benson.
Hold on. We'll keep with this. This is a question for Neil, but looking forward in the draft next year, which I know we just finished this year's draft, but is next year's running back class supposed to be better to where the Cowboys are like, why waste the pick now and just plug the hole with a Band-Aid and then let's look to the future later on. Like, is it possible that they're doing something like that?
That's a very good question. I don't know. I
We
don't
should
know what
call Neil
next
right
year's.
now.
I don't know what next year's running back class looks like. I know next year's quarterback class is supposed to be nothing compared to
Yeah,
this one.
I know
I'm
that.
honestly not sure about the running back
I
class.
just food for thought. Like, who
Yeah.
knows? What
Okay.
just to kind of solve the Cowboys.
Yeah.
What's the point though? Like,
Yeah.
anyways,
So back to Trey Benson going to the Cardinals. Trey Benson was talented. He went obviously very early third round, which is a fairly high pick for a running back. He went to the Cardinals. Um, James Conner is getting old. This could be the starting running back of the Cardinals next year. Well, not this coming year, 2025.
correct.
There's a very valid chance. James Conner has missed games every year of his career, so Trey Benson may get a shot. It's actually a pretty good landing spot for Benson's talents, and it makes me sad because I wanted him on the Cowboys. But I don't think unless James Conner gets hurt, you're not going to get a workhorse role out of Benson this year. But
Even if he does get hurt, I think that it's still a two-back committee
yeah. So, all right, Trey Benson.
with whoever they have, because I think they're done with getting their players hurt. Anyways, whatever. Trey Benson, Jermaine Burton to the Bengals at the 16th pick.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, I think he was the number one receiver out of Alabama. So the Bengals lost Tyler Boyd, right? So they needed a third. Don't know what's happening with T. Higgins, which could have a huge difference in Burton's fantasy value, right? If he's the number 3, all right, cool. You can expect some decent stuff from him. If T. Higgins leaves and maybe he's the number 2, well, then maybe it could be even better. As a third round dynasty pick, it's probably not a bad shot. You put a young, talented receiver with a quarterback like Joe Burrow, and who knows what happens. I mean, they've also got I think his name's Charlie Jones on the roster, who got drafted last year. So this is where we're starting to get some of the players who are drafted are like much bigger question marks. Maybe they're going to get a shot. Maybe they're not.
Agreed.
Nope.
So the 18th pick, Tip Ryman to the Cardinals.
So he's a tight end out of, I believe, Illinois. This one, fantasy-wise, I expect nothing because the Cardinals have Trey McBride, and he's broken out. I think Tip Ryman is taken as a blocking tight end, 6'5", 271 pounds. That's a blocker.
Right.
So
270 pounds. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's a big boy.
That's a big boy. So that's fantasy-wise, probably not a whole lot of relevance.
Yeah, no. He's not. No. Blake Corum to the Rams.
Yeah, I thought that Blake Corum would be going to LA, but I thought he'd be going to the Chargers to reunite with Harbaugh. I guess like Corum can now go have a drink and visit Harbaugh at his house when he stops living in an RV park. But I don't know how much standalone fantasy value Blake Corum's going to have there. It does give me a little bit of pause and concern for Kyron Williams' fantasy value, only because it's a third round running back, which is decent draft capital for a running back. Is he an insurance policy for Kyron? Is he it's weird though, because if I remember correctly, Corum and Kyron are like similar size. They're similar. They're sort of similar players. So I don't know if they just picked up Corum because they want to have a similar type of guy if something happens to Kyron, or if they're planning to split time. right now, yeah, like I said, to me more than anything, it puts doubt in Kyron's value than it does make me think Blake Corum is some fantasy greatness.
No, yeah, I don't think they drafted him obviously didn't draft him to replace Kyron, but I think that that can give him some time off because he was injured last year because he was playing so much and had so many carries, so it gives him some time off. So yes, does it cut into it? Yes, it sucks, but hopefully he still gets goal lines. He still gets his touches over Quorum
Yep.
as the owner of Kyron Williams. I hope that that's what the plan
Yeah.
is.
All right, next.
I'll be going to their practices because they're supposedly going to be down the street from me, but we'll see.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Next up with the 20th pick, Roman Wilson to the Steelers.
This is actually a sneaky, interesting pick, in my opinion. He came out of Michigan with some talent. Obviously, Michigan didn't run the ball a ton, but he's fast. And I heard people saying that they wanted the Steelers to take a more explosive player, but they've already got George Pickens for the big play. And the Steelers have been known for developing and doing great things with wide receivers over the years, right? So to me, this could be a sneaky, really good pick, and he could turn into, the possession receiver for them. So I
Does it
think the
kind of put
Texans
to
are.
bed the Ayuk to steal to Pittsburgh trade rumors
I
that
hadn't even heard that one. I just heard Ayuk looks like Tomlin. I didn't know that they were talking about trading him there. I missed that one.
rumors? I'm not saying that
Yeah,
they were looking to trade
yeah,
him.
yeah.
It's just that that was what everybody has been saying for the last like 3 weeks prior to the draft that that would be a good fit for Ayuk for the Steelers and Ayuk to go there. But
Gotcha. All right.
I would imagine that that would put those rumors to bed because
Yeah,
they picked somebody up.
I'd be pretty surprised.
Marshawn Lloyd to the Packers.
Yeah, this one was kind of a surprise to me just because the Packers just signed Josh Jacobs, but with the structure of Josh Jacobs' contract, as we talked about before, it's pretty much a 1 year prove it deal. So maybe
Yeah,
this is an insurance policy if Jacobs
100%.
doesn't work out. Um, but they've still got AJ Dillon and they've got another young guy who's first, second, or third year. So it's kind of a bummer because I don't know how much he's going to get used at the Packers, where the Cowboys probably could have used him pretty well. Anyways,
You're like a broken record.
totally, completely.
That's all right. I
I
love it. I love it.
Because it's all out of pain. That's why you love it.
Yes. Hey, I
Yeah,
told you.
yeah.
I told you that you need to switch teams before you have a stroke, okay?
Okay.
Jalen McMillan to the Bucks.
Yeah, is another guy. Here's, like I said, we're getting to the point where I don't know a lot about these players. He's out of
He's out of
Washington.
Washington, yeah.
So sure. He's in Tampa Bay. He's already going to be behind Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. Last year, Trey Palmer looked pretty good. So maybe he'll be a third or fourth wide receiver on the team. Definitely not looking a lot for him in year one.
His ESPN rank was actually 80, which is, I feel like, really high for this part in the draft.
Yeah, actually, that looks true looking at some of these players. So
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
Just to put it out there to you,
Yeah.
fantasy managers who are listening to this podcast.
Yeah. Last pick of the third round, pick number 100, Mr. Luke McCaffrey.
Luke McCaffrey to the Commanders.
So good for him. I think this is earlier than a lot of people expected him to be taken. He's gonna be behind Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson, and we told you they got Zach Ertz and Austin Eckler. So I don't expect a whole lot from LMC since he's not CMC. He's LMC.
Yeah, I mean, I have nothing to say on his talent other than the fact that like like if he picks up the work ethic of his brother, like
I'm sure he has it, but that doesn't. Uh, you can work really hard, but sometimes you get naturally limited.
I don't know.
Yeah. And it's a
I
different
yeah,
position. Yeah. All right.
uh,
So that's the end of the third round.
end of the third.
I don't know how much time we want to spend talking about a ton of these fourth round players, but let's not necessarily go through them one by one. Which ones they're interesting to you? I want to
I
talk
think
about
Troy. Go
yeah,
ahead.
Troy Franklin at
Yeah.
402 to the Broncos. I was very surprised he fell that far.
Yes.
But but he ended up back with Bo Nix in Denver. So is that
Chemistry.
maybe a wonderful landing spot for him, considering the Broncos lost Jerry Judy? Cortland Sutton's been not happy. They got Bo Nix. Like maybe that's a sneaky, valuable play. Uh,
Yeah. I mean,
yeah. Anyways, okay.
you said it earlier that like receivers aren't gonna be the like don't expect that receiver to be good this year. Is he going to have a game or two possibly where he goes off for 14 or 17 points, fantasy points? Yeah, that's there's a possibility it's going to happen, but chances are like unless they decide to get rid of their receiving core and Cortland Sutton goes someplace else, like and he's able to slide in, but you still have Bo Nix throwing at you.
Yeah.
Or what's his nuts? I don't know what's his name.
Stidham? Zach
No, the
Wilson.
Wilson. There you go.
Zach Wilson, what's his nuts?
Like you've got MILF Hunter or you've got Bo Nix. Those are your two options throwing at you. Good luck, receivers.
Yeah. So just a couple of
I'm
tight
looking
ends.
through them. Yeah.
There's some tight ends, some wide receivers. So
Bucky
Jatavian
Irving.
Sanders. Well, I was
Oh,
gonna say
sorry.
wide receivers and tight ends. We got Jatavian Sanders of the Panthers, Theo Johnson of the Giants. Only reason that might be interesting is that Darren Waller did officially retire now.
Oh, okay.
Um, Theo, oh, I said that. Javon Baker, the Patriots receiver, Devontae Walker, the Ravens receiver. And then when we got to the later half of the fourth round, there was quite a run on running backs. Jalen Wright to the Dolphins at 420, Bucky Irving to the Bucks at 425, Will Shipley to the Eagles at 427, Ray Davis to the Bills at 428, Isaac Guerrero to the 49ers at 429, Braylon Allen to the Jets at 434, and then another receiver, Jacob Cowing to the 49ers at 435. So as this was going on, I'm sitting there watching, going, running backs, they're all leaving.
Yeah.
Somebody
I was
pick it
coaching
up.
first base at my daughter's softball game this morning, looking at my phone, update, going, Aaron's pissed right now. Aaron's pissed right now.
So Jalen Wright to the Dolphins, to me, that one's a bummer because he is now going to be behind Mostert and Achan, but maybe he replaces Mostert next year.
Uh-huh.
Bucky Irving to the Bucks. This was your pick, who you claimed in our mock draft you took early to piss me off. I don't know. He's a little guy going to the Bucks. He's more of a pass catcher, but Rashad White is a better pass catcher than he is rushing, so I don't get that one. Will Shipley to the Eagles. He's another guy who catches passes, but he's behind Saquon. Like he ain't gonna do nothing for a while.
I mean, as long as Saquon is there, he's never gonna do anything.
Right.
He's just gonna eat into Saquon. That's the problem.
Right.
Is he gonna help the Eagles win? Yeah, probably. Because he's gonna give Saquon time off, but he's never gonna do anything fantasy wise.
Ray Davis.
Unless Saquon breaks his other leg.
Ray Davis to the Bills. He's an interesting player, but he's already 24, which for a running back is very, very old. The Bills, maybe he's the bigger guy to go behind James Cook and be the goal line back, but Josh Allen's still the goal line back. Isaac Guerrero to the 49ers. He's the guy who destroyed the combine. Like he was fantastic looking in the combine, but as long as CMC and then Elijah Mitchell are there, I don't expect a whole lot out of Isaac Guerrero.
But he's like, is there something? I don't know. Is there something to say for like if you're going to go behind CMC and learn from him and his I've said it, but I just said it. Work ethic and the way that he see, like, yes, CMC is an ultra talented human being, but he works at that. Like, if he worked half as hard, he wouldn't be half as good.
Yeah, I get your point, but he's Isaac Rendo's coming in third on the depth chart. He's a developmental prospect. Maybe we see something out of him eventually,
Of
but
course, but he's worth drafting in the
fourth,
fourth or
fifth,
fifth round
sure, you
to
could
put on
throw
your
him on
taxi
a.
squad for 2 years.
You could give it a shot.
Yeah.
Braylon Allen to the Jets. He's the big bruising back. I don't know, but they've got Brees Hall. So I, like I said, as I was watching these running backs go to sit behind good
Right.
running backs already and
Yes.
wondering why the Cowboys weren't picking one. This is like I'm confusing. Anyways,
Jerry Jones has a master plan, and you just have to trust it as a Cowboys fan, okay?
no.
Just trust it.
Okay. Fifth round. I didn't even get most of the players. Like Audric Estime out of Notre Dame, I put in here because he went to the Broncos, who, you know, Javonte Williams has never been what they expected. Audric Estime, a lot of people had high hopes for him. He had a bad combine, but that could be a decent landing spot. 515 was the next quarterback taken after Bo Nix at 112. Yeah. Finally went at 515 to the Saints, which is potentially actually interesting just because Derek Carr and did they re-sign Jameis? I don't even remember if they re-signed Jameis Winston or not. Either way,
I don't think they did. He went someplace else, did he not?
I don't know. You talk for a minute, I'll look it up.
I feel like he signed with as a backup someplace else. But
Cleveland Browns. You're right. Cleveland Browns. So yeah,
I remember him taking snaps from the center. Like it was a video that they had posted because right before, anyways. But yeah, so he's not there. So yeah, it's a good. Let's see that. Is Spencer Rattler? Is he a good quarterback? Like
he was decent out of South Carolina. Like he's probably. I mean, he's there to back up Derek Carr. They still got Taysom Hill.
He's the next Bryce Young.
We'll see.
Like. Give him but then again, if you give him 2 years behind somebody to learn and build strength and develop, like could he just come out in year 3 and be like, oh, I'm gonna go win 10 games for somebody? Like it's a possibility.
Anyways, Jordan Travis.
I like the next quarterback taken before I like him anyways, so it doesn't matter.
Jordan Travis?
Oh no, sorry, the next one.
Oh, Jordan Travis to the Jets at 536. This one's just vaguely interesting because he'll be behind Aaron Rodgers. He can learn. They signed Tyrod Taylor so that they have a legit backup. So Jordan Travis isn't playing, but okay, maybe there's some interest there. 617. This is the one
I like this guy.
Joe Milton to the Patriots. So I mean, we've talked about him having an absolute cannon of an arm, but they just drafted Drake May, who's got a pretty good arm. Are they hoping to pull a RG3 and Kirk Cousins situation here, like just in case? I don't.
What does that say for Drake May? Like, we're not quite sure about you, so we got somebody who's got a better arm than you, just in case.
Yeah, I don't know. That one's kind of interesting.
Like, did they not need anything else? That was the best thing that they could pick off the board. I don't know. I like the guy. Like I've seen him. I watched him play a couple of times when he was in on TV for Tennessee. Like he's not a terrible quarterback. He's raw, but he's not terrible. Like no, he's not. He got picked right where he should, but he. With a few years of like tutelage, like could he be a decent quarterback? Like, I think so. Right. I don't know.
And the last pick that I wanted to mention, just because you're talking about family bloodline, Brendan Rice, Jerry Rice's son, did actually get picked and is going to the Chargers. So came from USC, gets to stay in LA. I it's a
That was
seventh
a
round
favor.
pick.
That was a favor pick.
Yeah, right. So I don't know that's gonna have a whole lot of fantasy value. And then I heard right after the draft was done, speaking of kids, Frank Gore Jr. got signed as an undrafted free agent by the Bills like right after the draft. So Luke McCaffrey got drafted, Brendan Rice got drafted, Frank Gore's kid at least is
All the
going to the
kids got
NFL.
drafted.
Well, no, Frank Gore was not drafted.
Ah, you're right.
But they've all
Signed.
got teams, yes.
Sorry.
So, that was a lot of picks and a lot of players.
It
But man, that
was.
was a lot of fun, and it's so exciting to see where they all end up now. And at least we got landing spots, and
It's
dang,
one
this
step. It's
is
one step closer to the season. That's
one
all it
step
is.
closer to the season. And man, we knew that the draft would shake up the order of who we believed in.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, just absolutely crazy. I mean, where did we have? You had Adonai Mitchell in your Superflex mock draft we did last week at 109, and he ended up getting taken 220. And then
Well, that doesn't. Those don't. So hold on a second.
Wait
First
a
of all,
second.
like that
You
makes it
all-
sound like I was way off.
Wait
He
a second.
still could be the end of first beginning of second pick.
Yeah, I had him at 202. That sounds about right. A lot
That sounds
closer.
more. Yes, it sounds more realistic.
And-
we'll see what happens. Maybe I'll pick him just to spite you on third or fourth or fifth.
and Troy, you had Troy Franklin in the first as well, 111. And you're gonna say, where did I have him? I had him at 204. Okay, so we know neither of us had him.
We both thought that he was going to be higher, but I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
Because I think that just I don't know. Yeah.
What?
You have to think about offensive linemen, defensive backs, like where these players ended up, like, and the needs for the teams are completely different than what we are. So we can redo a mock draft a week before our draft, and we can redo this.
Yeah, I mean, I had
3.5 weeks away, 4 weeks away now.
Yeah, somewhere around there. And I took Bo Nix at 206. I'm gonna have to move that up a bit. Especially considering the draft we were doing with Superflex. Yeah, I'm gonna.
But so we still have 4 minutes left. So do you prepare for Superflex this year or do you prepare for Superflex next year?
That's
as
a very good
broad
question that
spectrum
I don't have an answer to.
As without
I mean,
divulging what you think, do you wait because there's no quarterbacks next year?
We're 2 years away.
Correct.
And so that makes it real tough. Because
it wouldn't make it tough if we knew that next year's quarterback class was going to be decent, but we already know that next year's quarterback class is going to be shit.
It's supposed to be not as good, number one, and
well, anything with 6 quarterbacks in the first round is not going to be as good. They're all going to be worse than that. But
the point being,
those quarterbacks next year aren't starting.
The other problem is like, so Bo Nix, there's a potential that in 2 years he's useless, right? Like they give him a shot for a year or two and he fails and he's not starting. So like,
because
it's real borderline.
Yes. Okay. You're correct. I can't say no because that is correct. But there's also
Penix.
No, what's his name? The quarterback for Tampa Bay right now.
Baker Mayfield.
Look at Mayfield. If you put him in the right position, maybe Denver's not the right position for Bo Nix. Maybe a different team is better. And I'm just speculating at this point in time. Baker Mayfield was not good in Cleveland. He goes to Tampa Bay and is solid. How many years? 4 years post-draft? 4 years? 5?
There's a lot less people who show up and then don't do it, who don't succeed in a second shot.
100%. There's also how many number 1 pick quarterbacks have panned out? Not that many.
Oh, there's
more that haven't than more that have.
Correct.
we can argue both ways. But my point is, back to the question was, what do you do in our league? Like, where is the thought process? Is it, are you thinking Superflex this year, or are you thinking Superflex next year for the 2-year Superflex?
Like I said,
I'm thinking this year you kind of start.
You start shifting that way.
Correct.
I think you start shifting that way, but I wouldn't go full Superflex mindset.
No, not full, but you might. I mean, if I don't know.
Yeah. Well. All right. Well, I thought I was gonna have a child come in, but she's not responding to my messages right now. So, and
please subscribe.
We don't have a whole lot of time. So, everyone, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you again soon. Okay. Bye.
Bye.